So Anna Hutchinson began having really kind of like informal Bible studies in her house. You know, they talk about like she'd have people over and they talk about the week's sermon or what have you. Initially, it was women. She was worked as a midwife, and so she had access into people's homes. And so initially, she was meeting with women, but in time, men started coming to these discussions. And you know, Boston's only a few thousand people, so if several dozen people start walking to someone's house, people are going to notice. So she's told to cut this out. This isn't appropriate. You shouldn't be doing this. She continues to have these discussions at her house. And so in the module, you've got the transcript from the trial, and I'm looking at that right now as I tell you this story. So Winthrop, he lists, I mean, I give you an excerpt. Like, this thing is long, right? And so he says, you're called here as one of those who have troubled the peace, because this whole big long explanation of what she's done. You known to be a woman who has had a great share in promoting and divulging opinions that have been the cause of the trouble, he says. You've been having an assembly. It's been condemned by the assembly as something that's not tolerable, nor comely in the sight of God, nor fitting for your sex. So you've been having this meeting, which you shouldn't be doing because it's not fitting for a woman to do that. So again, big long list. He tells her all these things you're doing wrong. Mostly, you're having these meetings and you're a woman and you shouldn't be doing that. And so she says, I'm called here to answer before you, but I hear no things laid to my charge. Basically, I don't hear what I did wrong. You can kind of imagine like his eye roll and sigh when he says, I've told you some already, more I can tell you. She says, name one, sir. Now, really, probably exasperated, he says, have I not named some already? And she says, what have I said or done? He says, why, for your doings, this you did harbor and countenance those that are parties in this faction that you've heard of. Basically, I just told you, you're hanging out with these people, you're having these meetings, and you're not supposed to be doing it. And she says, that's a matter of conscience, sir. Meaning, that's your opinion. So it goes back and forth like that for a bit. The men there will cite Bible passages to explain why she shouldn't be doing what she's doing, but she is a learned woman and she has read the Bible, and so she can quote Bible passages back to them to suggest that what she's doing is perfectly acceptable. And she does this multiple times. So many times, in fact, there's a few times when she kind of bests the guys. Like, she quotes this passage back to them, and they're kind of like they don't have a response back. So basically, it kind of makes them look foolish a few times. But you know, there's no way, right? She can win this. I suspect a lot of her, just like, you know, if that's a matter of your opinion, sir. I suspect a lot of that is she's pregnant with her 14th or 15th child at this point. I don't remember which, but clearly probably has very little patience, right, for these judges who are calling her out. But again, there's no way she's going to win this, probably because she's pregnant and she's a pretty respected woman within the community. She is only banished. You know, this is the 1630s though, so you know, it's not like she can hop on the T and go to the next town. So banishing is pretty harsh. So she's banished, and the sentence they issue, excuse me, is that she had rather been a husband than a wife, a preacher than a hearer, and a magistrate than a subject. She's rather been a husband than a wife, a preacher than a hearer, a magistrate than a subject. You have been acting like a husband, a preacher, a magistrate, when you should be acting like a wife, a hearer, a subject. So basically, stop acting like a man. So she leaves, takes her husband, really interested in Mr. Hutchinson, handful of followers. One of them is Mary Dyer, who we'll talk about later in the module, and they leave. A fun fact, after they leave, the men of Boston get together and are like, that was, you know, kind of embarrassing. We were bested by this one. We really can't have that happen again. So they decide they need to create a school to train young men so that they will be well educated and can't be basically bested by women. That school still exists. But if you think about for a moment, school in Boston that still exists. It's Harvard. So, kind of ironic, a little maybe, that some of the origins of Harvard stem from this case with Anne Hutchinson. If you have any questions, you can leave those in the discussion board. Take care.